Mom's too old to understand modern banking, my son told the financial advisor while trying to access my accounts. I sat in the lobby, pretending to read a magazine, recording every word on my phone. Then I stood up and said, "This old lady just moved $500,000 into crypto." Before we start, don't forget to like this video, comment where you're watching from, and hit that subscribe button so you never miss a story like this. Have you experienced something like this? Please let me know in the comments. My name is Margaret Chen. I'm 68 years old from San Francisco, and this is the story of how I destroyed my son's attempt to steal my retirement fund by becoming a cryptocurrency investor he never saw coming. It started 6 months ago when Bradley began showing unusual interest in my finances. For 35 years, he'd never asked about my retirement accounts, my savings, or my investment portfolio. Then suddenly, after his third business failed and his wife Cheryl started posting about their temporary financial setback on Facebook, he became obsessed with my financial well-being. "Mom, you really should let me help you manage your accounts," he said during what was supposed to be a casual lunch at my favorite dim sum restaurant. He'd ordered all the expensive dishes, the lobster dumplings, the abalone, even though I knew he couldn't afford it. "At your age, these things can get complicated. You don't want to make any mistakes." I played with my teacup, watching the leaves swirl at the bottom. "At my age?" He said it like I was ancient, like the 40 years I'd spent teaching advanced mathematics at Berkeley had evaporated the moment I turned 65. "I'm managing fine, Bradley," I said, keeping my voice light. "My advisor at Chase has been wonderful." His jaw tightened. That small tell he'd had since childhood when things weren't going his way. "But Mom, what if something happens to you? What if you have a stroke or develop dementia? We need to have access to help you." We, not him. We. As if Cheryl, who'd called me a relic at last year's Christmas dinner, was suddenly concerned about my welfare. I noticed him glancing at my purse, where he knew I kept my checkbook. He'd already tried twice to borrow it to just check something. I'd started leaving it at home, carrying only cash and one credit card. "I have everything arranged," I told him. "My will is updated, my power of attorney is filed with my lawyer." "But I'm not on it," he said too quickly. "Your power of attorney? The lawyer said I'm not on it." How did he know what my lawyer said? I hadn't told him. My stomach turned cold, but I kept my expression neutral, the same face I used when students tried to cheat on exams. "That's interesting," I said. "When did you speak to my lawyer?" That night, I called my attorney, Jennifer Walsh. She confirmed my suspicions. Bradley had called 3 times that week, claiming to be checking on my behalf, trying to get information about my estate planning. Jennifer, thank God, had told him nothing without my written permission, but she warned me, "Margaret, he's getting aggressive. He even mentioned potentially challenging your mental capacity. You need to be careful." I hung up and sat in my study, surrounded by the books that had been my companions since my husband died 5 years ago. Advanced calculus textbooks, coding manuals, economic theory. Bradley thought I was just a doddering old woman who could barely work her smartphone. He had no idea that I'd been taking online courses for the past 3 years, including one on blockchain technology and cryptocurrency markets. It had started as curiosity. My former student, David Kim, had become a millionaire through early Bitcoin investments. He'd visited me 2 years ago, spent an afternoon explaining digital wallets, blockchain technology, and decentralized finance. "Professor Chen," he'd said, "you taught me about complex mathematical proofs. This is just another kind of math." I'd been fascinated. The elegance of the blockchain, the mathematical beauty of the encryption, the puzzle of predicting market movements. I'd started small, investing $1,000 just to learn. Within 6 months, I turned it into $10,000, not through luck, but through careful analysis, the same way I'd approached every mathematical problem in my career. Bradley didn't know any of this. He didn't know about the hardware wallet hidden in my safety deposit box, or the recovery phrases I'd memorized using the same techniques I'd used to memorize mathematical formulas. He thought I was just his clueless old mother, sitting on a traditional retirement fund he could access if he just pushed the right buttons. The next morning, I went to Chase Bank for my regular Friday visit. I like to check my statements in person, chat with the tellers, maintain that human connection. But this time, I noticed Bradley's car in the parking lot. He didn't see me. I'd taken an Uber, another skill he didn't think I possessed. I watched him walk into the bank with a folder under his arm, his shoulders set with determination. I entered the bank quietly, picked up a brochure about mortgage rates, and sat in the lobby where I could hear but not be seen. Bradley was at the advisory desk with Marcus Williams, the financial advisor I'd specifically never introduced him to. He must have researched who handled larger accounts. My mother, Margaret Chen, has accounts here, Bradley was saying. I'm concerned about her mental capacity. She's been making erratic financial decisions, and I need to protect her assets. Marcus, professional and cautious, responded, I understand your concern, Mr. Chen. Do you have power of attorney documentation? Not yet, Bradley admitted, but I'm in the process. She's resistant. You know how the elderly can be. They don't realize when they need help. He pulled papers from his folder. I have medical documentation about cognitive decline. My blood ran cold. Medical documentation? I hadn't been to any doctor he would know about. I pulled out my phone, opened the recording app, and held it low, capturing everything. She doesn't understand modern banking, Bradley continued. She still writes checks, for God's sake. She could be scammed at any moment. Someone could drain her accounts and she wouldn't even know how to check online. That's when I stood up. The look on Bradley's face when he saw me was worth every moment of this betrayal. His mouth opened, closed, opened again like a fish gasping for air. Marcus looked between us, immediately understanding the situation. This old lady just moved $500,000 into crypto, I said, walking toward them with the same authority I'd once commanded in lecture halls. And yes, Bradley, I know how to check my accounts online. I also know how to record conversations, research blockchain technology, and spot a con artist, even when he's my own son. Bradley's face went from pale to red. Mom, I can explain. You can explain to my lawyer, I said. Marcus, I'd like to discuss my accounts, privately. And Bradley, that medical documentation you have? I'm very curious which doctor supposedly examined me, since my actual physician is Dr. Sarah Foster, and she just gave me a clean bill of health last week, including a cognitive assessment I requested specifically because I suspected you might try something like this. Marcus escorted Bradley out while I sat down to discuss my accounts, but the truth was the damage was already done, not to me, but to any trust I'd had left in my son. That afternoon, I made the decision that would change everything. I went home and began the process of converting my traditional assets into cryptocurrency. It wasn't reckless. I'd been preparing for this possibility for months. David Kim had helped me set up multiple wallets, taught me about cold storage, explained the importance of diversification across different cryptocurrencies. I didn't put everything into Bitcoin. That would have been foolish. I spread it across Bitcoin, Ethereum, and several stablecoins. I kept enough in traditional accounts to pay my bills, maintain appearances, but the bulk of my wealth, my real retirement security, went digital. The process took 3 days. I worked methodically, the way I'd grade final exams or solve complex equations. Each transfer was calculated, documented, secured. I used multiple exchanges, different wallet addresses, layers of security that would make it impossible for Bradley or anyone else to access without my explicit cooperation. On the second day, Bradley called 15 times. I didn't answer. Cheryl sent texts saying I was being cruel and unreasonable and that family should trust family. Ironic, coming from the woman who'd convinced Bradley to take out loans against their house for her failed boutique business. On the third day, as I was finalizing the last transfer, Bradley showed up at my door. He had flowers, grocery store carnations, the kind you grab from the impulse buy section. Mom, please, we need to talk. I was just worried about you. I let him in, but didn't offer tea. We sat in my living room, him on the edge of the sofa like he used to when he was a teenager in trouble. The bank called me, he said. They said you withdrew most of your money. Mom, what are you doing? You're going to lose everything. Bradley, I said, sitting in my reading chair, the one his father used to occupy. I taught mathematics for 40 years. I published papers on probability theory and statistical analysis. Do you really think I would make financial decisions without careful calculation? But cryptocurrency, he exploded. It's volatile. It's dangerous. You don't understand? I understand perfectly, I interrupted. I understand that Bitcoin uses SHA-256 cryptographic hash functions. I understand that Ethereum smart contracts operate on a Turing-complete blockchain. I understand that my private keys, stored offline, are protected by encryption that would take current computers millions of years to break. What I don't understand is why my son tried to forge medical documents to steal my money.
The forged medical documents were Bradley's biggest mistake. The doctor whose signature appeared on them, Dr. Robert Harrison, didn't exist. Bradley had created him from whole cloth, complete with a fake medical license number he'd found online. It was fraud, plain and simple, and Jennifer Walsh was delighted to add it to the evidence file. "We can press charges," she told me over coffee the next morning. "Attempted fraud, forgery, elder abuse. He's looking at serious jail time." I stirred my latte, thinking about the little boy who used to help me grade papers, sorting them into neat piles on our dining room table. What would happen to his family? "That's not your responsibility, Margaret," Jennifer said gently. "He made these choices." But I wasn't thinking about Bradley. I was thinking about my grandchildren, Emma, 12, and Lucas, 10. They didn't deserve to have their lives destroyed because their father was a greedy fool. Is there another way? Something that would stop him without destroying the children's futures? Jennifer considered this. We could go for a restraining order, financial restrictions, make it impossible for him to access any of your accounts or come near your financial institutions. Add a cease and desist for any attempts to question your mental capacity. It would be on his record, but not a criminal conviction. That's what we did. The paperwork was filed within a week. Bradley was banned from any Chase Bank branch, prohibited from accessing any of my financial information, and restrained from coming within 100 feet of me without prior written permission. The forged documents were submitted to the state medical board, ensuring he could never try that particular scam again. The day he was served, Cheryl called me screaming, "You've ruined us! Do you know what this means? Bradley can't even go to our own bank now. His business credit is destroyed." "His business credit was already destroyed," I said calmly. "That's why he tried to steal from me. And Cheryl, I know about the loan you took out using Bradley's forged signature on the application. Yes, I have copies of that too. So perhaps you should stop calling before I decide to share that information with the appropriate authorities." She hung up. They both finally understood that the weak-old woman they'd tried to rob was neither weak nor stupid. With Bradley legally restrained from interfering, I threw myself fully into the cryptocurrency world. David Kim became my regular tutor, meeting me twice a week to discuss market trends, new technologies, and investment strategies. To him, I wasn't a fragile senior citizen. I was Professor Chen, the woman who taught him that mathematics was a language for understanding the universe. "You're picking this up faster than my younger clients," he told me one afternoon as we reviewed my portfolio performance. In 3 months, my initial conversion had grown by 15%, not through wild speculation, but through careful, calculated trades based on market analysis and mathematical modeling. I joined online forums using the handle ProfMath68. Nobody knew I was a 68-year-old retired teacher. In the digital world, I was just another investor, judged only by the intelligence of my analyses and the accuracy of my predictions. I wrote posts about applying probability theory to market volatility that got thousands of upvotes. I helped younger investors understand the mathematical principles behind blockchain technology. One evening, while reviewing my portfolio, now worth $580,000, up from the $500,000 I'd initially converted, I got an unexpected message on LinkedIn. It was from Bradley's employer. "Mrs. Chen, I'm sorry to contact you this way, but did you know your son has been telling investors that he manages a family fund worth over $1 million? He's using your name to attract clients." I sat back in my chair, shaking my head.
Even after everything, Bradley was still trying to profit from my existence. But this time, I was ready. I forwarded the message to Jennifer, who sent a cease and desist letter that arrived at Bradley's office the next morning. By afternoon, he was unemployed. The story might have ended there, but Bradley couldn't let it go. He started a social media campaign, posting on Facebook about his mentally declining mother who'd been scammed by cryptocurrency schemes. He created a GoFundMe called Help Save My Mother from Crypto Fraud, complete with photos of me from 5 years ago at my husband's funeral, looking frail and grief-stricken. The post went viral in our community. People who'd known me for decades suddenly wondered if poor Professor Chen had lost her mind. Former colleagues called, concerned. Neighbors whispered when I walked by. Bradley had turned me into a cautionary tale, the elderly woman who'd lost everything to internet scams. So I decided to fight back with the truth. I created my own social media presence, not on Facebook, that was Bradley's territory. I went on Twitter, where the crypto community thrived. My first tweet was simple. I'm the 68-year-old mother whose son tried to steal her retirement fund. He failed because I converted it to crypto. Here's the proof. I attached screenshots of the legal documents, the restraining order, the forged medical papers. The crypto community embraced me immediately. Within hours, my tweet had thousands of retweets. People started calling me Crypto Grandma and Professor Hodler. Major cryptocurrency influencers shared my story. Someone created a meme of me as Superman's grandmother with the caption, "Not all heroes wear capes. Some wear cardigans and own hardware wallets." Bradley's GoFundMe was flooded with comments calling him out. People posted screenshots of my tweets, links to my mathematical analyses of Bitcoin trends, videos of my online lectures about blockchain technology. The fundraiser was taken down within 48 hours for fraud. But the best part came when a reporter from TechCrunch reached out. "Would you be willing to do an interview about your experience?" she asked. "We're doing a series on older investors in the crypto space." The article, titled "The 68-Year-Old Math Professor Who Outsmarted Her Greedy Son with Bitcoin," was read by millions. It included everything: Bradley's attempted theft, my secret crypto education, the mathematical models I'd developed for predicting market trends. They even included a photo of me at my computer, multiple monitors displaying cryptocurrency charts, looking nothing like the frail old woman Bradley had portrayed. The morning the article was published, my phone rang at 6 a.m. It was Bradley. Jennifer had modified the restraining order to allow phone contact for emergencies involving the grandchildren. "Mom," he said, his voice small and defeated, "I'm sorry." I listened to his breathing for a moment. "Are you sorry you tried to steal from me, or sorry you got caught?" "Both," he admitted after a pause. I didn't think you understood. I thought the money was just sitting there, and we were drowning, and you were old." "And therefore stupid," I finished for him. "No, not stupid, just vulnerable. I thought I was protecting you while protecting us. I convinced myself it was for everyone's good." "Bradley," I said, sitting down at my kitchen table where he used to do his homework, "I spent 40 years teaching students to think critically, to analyze problems, to find solutions. Did you really think I would stop using my brain just because I retired?" "I wasn't thinking," he said. "I was desperate. The business failed, Cheryl was threatening to leave, the kids' school tuition was due. I saw your accounts as the solution to everything." "Your father would be ashamed," I said quietly. It was the first time I'd invoked his memory in this mess. "He worked 2 jobs to put you through college so you wouldn't struggle like we did. And this is how you honor that sacrifice? By trying to steal from his widow?" Bradley broke down crying. Not the manipulative tears he'd used before, but real, ugly sobs. I know. I've lost everything, Mom. My job, my reputation, my friends. Cheryl filed for divorce yesterday. She's taking the kids to her mother's in Seattle." I felt a pang for Emma and Lucas, innocent casualties in their parents' war. "What do you need, Bradley?" I don't deserve. I didn't ask what you deserve. I asked what you need. He was quiet for a moment. Time to figure out how to rebuild, to prove I can be better, to maybe, someday, earn your forgiveness. I looked at my computer screen, where my portfolio showed a current value of $620,000. The irony wasn't lost on me. If Bradley had just asked for help, honestly and humbly, I would have given it freely. Instead, his greed had cost him everything. I'm setting up education funds for Emma and Lucas, I told him. Cryptocurrency wallets that will be accessible when they turn 18. You won't have access, neither will Cheryl, but their college will be paid for. Mom, I'm not doing it for you, I interrupted. I'm doing it for them. As for you, Bradley, you're 38 years old. You have time to rebuild, to become someone your children can be proud of. But you'll do it without my money and without my presence in your life. The restraining order stays. The financial restrictions stay. This is goodbye. Mom, please. I hung up. Then I blocked his number, Cheryl's too. I kept one line of communication open, an email account that Jennifer monitored solely for emergencies regarding the grandchildren. That afternoon, I met David Kim for coffee. You know, he said, reviewing my latest trades, you've outperformed 90% of traditional retirement funds this year. It's just math, I said, the same thing I used to tell struggling students. Complex math, but still math. Have you thought about teaching again? He asked. Not at the university, but online. There's a huge demand for someone who can explain cryptocurrency to older investors, someone they can trust, who understands their concerns. I considered it. At 68, I'd thought my teaching days were over. But maybe this was a new chapter, a way to help other seniors protect themselves from financial predators, even when those predators were their own children. Professor Chen's Crypto Classroom, I said, trying out the name, for seniors who refuse to be scammed. David grinned. I'd invest in that. So that's what I did. I started a YouTube channel, a Discord server, an online course. Within 6 months, I had thousands of students, all over 50, learning about blockchain technology, digital security, and financial independence. The course fees went into a fund for elder financial abuse victims. My story became a cautionary tale, but also an inspiration. Bradley never contacted me again. I heard through Jennifer that he'd moved to Portland, got a job at a credit union, was slowly rebuilding his life. The grandchildren thrived with their maternal grandparents, and I watched their progress through the emails their school sent about honor roll achievements and soccer victories. On my 70th birthday, I received a package with no return address. Inside was a first edition of The Mathematical Theory of Communication by Claude Shannon, the book that had started my love affair with information theory decades ago. The note inside, in Bradley's handwriting, said simply, "You were always the smartest person in the room. I'm sorry it took me so long to see it." I put the book on my shelf between my cryptocurrency guides and my old teaching awards. Then I checked my portfolio, now worth $890,000 and growing, and started preparing my next lecture on financial independence in the digital age. Because that's what survival looks like in your 70s, not just protecting what you have, but continuing to grow, learn, and teach. Bradley thought my age made me weak. Instead, it had given me decades of experience in spotting problems, finding solutions, and never, ever underestimating the power of a good mathematical proof. The last time I checked, his GoFundMe page was still archived online, a monument to his greed and my response. Someone had commented on it just that week. Came here from Crypto Grandma's course. Remember, folks, never underestimate a math teacher with a hardware wallet. Indeed, never underestimate any older person who's had a lifetime to learn, adapt, and prepare for exactly this kind of betrayal. We may have gray hair and reading glasses, but we also have something far more valuable: the wisdom to see you coming and the knowledge to stop you cold.